premature positive thinking occurs when people force themselves to adapt a positive mindset before fully processing or addressing a difficult situation. It often involves suppressing negative emotions by bypassing important lessons or rushing towards optimism without acknowledging the depth of a challenge.
That's I feel like so many of us exist in that space, especially in the spiritual community where we've all been taught to adopt a positive mindset, like think positive thoughts, always, always just think positive thoughts. And no, it's not that simple.
Well, yeah, and the reason this comes up, Shanice, is this premature positive thinking keeps you stuck in the thinking mind. Because you're like, actually, because I know myself, I was a huge premature positive thinker. I didn't have to, I'm going to think positive. It keeps me away from touching whatever I'm like trying to avoid to feel. Good morning, guys. We are your hosts, Lori
and Shanice, certified spiritual life coaches. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to our podcast, Branching In.
Yes, and we'd also love it if you guys could just take a moment to like and subscribe. It would mean so much to us to have your support as we continue to spread more self-awareness. So, Shanice, in this episode, what's keeping you stuck thinking it versus feeling it? We are going to dive deep into the differences between thinking and feeling. So, Shanice, I've heard people refer to this in many different ways. Few of them are thinking versus feeling, intellectualizing versus emotionalizing, enlightenment versus empowerment. So thinking, intellectualizing, enlightenment, they all happen in our mind. Whereas feeling, emotionalizing, empowerment occur in the body. So awakening is the process of integrating both, which is why we named our business, Shanice, Awaken Boot Camps.
That's right.
Because after you've taken our 10-week boot camp, Awaken into Authenticity, you'll have the tools to bridge the two, intellectualizing and then emotionalizing. You won't just know who you are, you'll embody who you are. You'll just be it.
I love that.
Yeah. So, Shanice, this leads me to the frustration of feeling stuck that many people experience and don't know how to get past it because they have all this knowledge, but nothing is changing. And I have so been here. Like, oh my gosh, this is a huge pivotal point for me in my life when I learned this. So we're trying to create change, but we keep ending back up in the same place.
Yes, that is really frustrating. But here's the thing, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. Your life reflects your state of being, not just your wish list. And this is where intellectualizing versus emotionalizing comes into play. Intellectualizing is important. It's that first step. You have to understand the concept, see the pattern, and put language into what you want. And that's the thinking part. That's the thinking. But thinking alone doesn't transform you. It's like reading a dozen books on swimming and you can like read about every stroke, every breathing technique, get it all down, but you're only going to learn to swim by getting in the water. Doesn't matter how many books you read. It's the action that really solidifies the knowledge that you're taking in. And so conceptual thought alone doesn't require you to change your behavior. And lasting change doesn't happen in the mind alone. It happens when you emotionalize what you've learned and put it into action. When you take insight out of your head and bring it into your life. When you let yourself feel it in your body and begin to truly know it. That's the moment that understanding turns into embodiment. When what you once only thought about becomes like a living, breathing part of you. You anchor it into your body and your energy begins to shift from the inside out. And so, I mean, that's great example of how both work in tandem, thinking and feeling, to really create the change that you desire to see in your life. And so, Lori, why do we do this? Why do we stay in the intellectual and not take action?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is consciously and unconsciously. And just knowing that, now knowing that the action is what creates the change doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to do that. So I know one big reason that myself and others stay in this intellectual place and just gaining knowledge, but not doing anything about it is afraid to feel, Shanice. I mean, feeling leads to the action because emotions are the body's built in motivators. They're the energy in the motion that moves us from the thought into the doing. It's again, until I'm intellectually telling you this right now and
Yeah.
explaining what it means to do this, but we might tend to stay more into the intellectual side because we're afraid to feel, because that's what's required in emotionalizing something and being empowered is feeling that, what you're experiencing, not just talking about how to do something, actually doing it and feeling it in the body. So
Well,
afraid to feel comes up.
yeah, and as you were saying that, I was feeling into that myself, and I think a lot of that fear is that vulnerability. We're so afraid to be vulnerable, and there's no other way to feel your feelings, like really going into your feelings and feeling them. That in itself is an act of vulnerability. And I know that can be so scary. I know it was for me for a long time, but yes, that's a really big one.
Yeah. And you know what, Shanice, it made me think, we use the example you started off with swimming.
Mhm.
And, afraid to feel. Also, we're always self conscious of how we look and, how other people are looking at us.
Yeah.
So it might be another reason why we're afraid to, jump in the water because being judged. Because again, whatever we're doing that we've intellectualized and have not emotionalized, it's new, right? Because we have never emotionalized this. So because it's new, there's a lot of things, and I know that go in my mind when I'm trying something new. Oh my God, am I doing this right? Is this right? Is this okay? What is everybody thinking? Are they looking at me?
I know.
So those are all the things that go through my mind that might keep me back a bit, that discomfort,
Yeah.
right? To feel that, in my body as well as others watching and judging.
Yeah, we're
That's what
afraid
comes
to look
up for me.
silly, right? We're afraid to look silly, we're afraid to look messy. Most of my life, I avoided parallel parking like the plague because I would always get it wrong, and
Oh,
then I felt so self-conscious, and I felt like everyone was watching me, and that's something I've been teaching myself these past few weeks, and I'm starting to get better at it, but yeah, I had to get out of that, like, "Okay, I'm gonna mess it up, and it might take me a few tries, and
yeah.
yes, maybe people are watching and I look silly." But, that's just there's no avoiding that when you're learning something new.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
possible.
going to feel a little uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But again, like anything, the more you do it, the more you parallel park and you get to, practice, you're going to have to practice also being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. And, I think there's a sense of, like, safety to it too. Staying in our head feels so much safer
Yeah.
than, like I was saying before, risking vulnerability, failure, or change. And so we kind of tend to stick with what we know
Yeah.
because it's safe. It's what we
Yeah.
know.
And we can talk ourselves right out of something. It's like, well, I don't know. I don't really know enough yet. So let me read a little more, learn a little more. Our perfectionism comes out
Right?
because we're constantly in that preparation mode when we're in that perfectionism that, oh, I don't know. I don't just, this doesn't feel that right. I don't know enough yet. Oh my gosh. That is, I feel, a common denominator for so many people to stay more in their head versus embodying it and feeling this experience or whatever they're trying to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you're, like, just in constant, endless preparation mode. Because
Yeah.
then it's like, "Oh, well, this isn't ready yet. It's not ready yet."
Yeah.
Like, I could it needs to be perfect. It's like
Yeah. And it never will be perfect because nothing is perfect. And who says what's perfect? So
exactly.
you just have to jump in. And I think that's challenging for all of us.
Yes, it is. And then another big one, Lori, is our old conditioning.
Yeah.
I know so many of us for me, I was kind of raised in that household where no one really took action. We talked it to death.
Yeah.
There was no real action. And so growing up, again, you see that. And so that becomes your normal. And then you grow up and you talk things to death and you don't take action because you weren't taught to.
Yeah, very true, very true. I mean, yes, I think we've all and again, it's what we watched. We've seen that happen, so we become that, and then that's kind of what leads me to thinking about Janice is growing up with something that I was not even aware of the term premature positive thinking.
Oh, let's get into this, Lori.
Yeah, and that is it was I just learned that term a few years ago, and that is basically what this term means for those that don't know it, like I didn't know it. Premature positive thinking occurs when people force themselves to adapt a positive mindset before fully processing or addressing a difficult situation. It often involves suppressing negative emotions by bypassing important lessons or rushing towards optimism without acknowledging the depth of a challenge.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's I feel like so many of us exist in that space, especially in the spiritual community where we've all been taught to adopt a positive mindset, like think positive thoughts, always, always just think positive thoughts. And yeah, no, it's not that simple.
Well, yeah, and the reason this comes up, Shanice, is this premature positive thinking keeps you stuck in the thinking mind
Mhm.
because you're like actually, because I know myself, I was a huge premature positive thinker. I didn't have to, I'm going to think positive. I'm not going to, it keeps me away from touching whatever I'm like trying to avoid to feel.
Yeah, and optimism is valuable. Genuine growth and resilience come from facing difficulties honestly before shifting toward a positive perspective. So it's just you can maintain a positivity, but it's so important to not let that stop you from diving into the more difficult feelings that we experience, the more difficult situations that life throws our way inevitably. That's just life. And that's okay. So it's great to be positive, but not in the face of denying all of the uncomfortable things.
Well, yeah, and just saying, like, I can just think it and I'll be it without, again, intellectualizing, without doing the work. It's like you can just think it. And if you don't have that in your body, yes, we can think it and become it. But again, there'll be a block that's very unconscious because you have not embodied it. You have not really emotionalized it. You, again, prematurely positively thought it.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that was so me. Like, actually, when I first heard this, I really like fought this whole idea. How can positive thinking be, not good? What? Like it's positive thinking. The word premature, meaning you are, again, you haven't actually done it. You're just thinking about it. You're premature positively thinking, which is a good setup. Again, if you set yourself up with that, but then you have to keep going and then do the work again and, come back to comfort, discomfort,
Yes.
and go through that process to fully emotionalize that. And then when you are positive and optimistic, you are feeling it, your body.
Yes, it's your whole body. It's your
Yeah.
thoughts and it's your emotions. They're
Yeah.
aligned.
It's just not like right here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I think of. It's just like from my neck up versus it's my whole body. And it's just like, whoa. And that is that magnet that you become. Your whole body becomes that magnet. There's such a difference. I never knew that. I didn't even like this was so unconscious to me that again, my belief system is just, was to be just positive.
Yeah.
Regardless, right? Be positive affirmations. Again, all awesome but not without doing all the other work that's in the body that has not come out. So it makes a huge, huge difference.
Oh, yes. To me, premature positive thinking, what helped me to kind of really emotionalize premature positive thinking is seeing it as like a pair of rose colored glasses. And for most of my life, I saw my upbringing in one very specific light. And it was a very like premature positive thinking, not really digging too deep, staying on the surface and, oh, everything's good. And when I started to do my own personal coaching sessions and I took them off, it was like earth shattering.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, because then I had to put away my premature positive thinking and really look at the truth of my upbringing and just like the circumstances. And it wasn't easy, but I circled back because when I allowed myself to see the truth and I embraced it and I grieved all the things that I hadn't seen or I didn't realize, I then came full circle and was still able to be grateful for the experiences, for the lessons, for how it helped me to grow. And so it started off with premature positive thinking, looped into like, no, here's the truth of it, but then loop back around to a sense of positivity, but grounded,
Yeah.
like you said, and body, mind and body, thought and feeling. So yeah, it can be scary to take off the rose colored glasses and see the truth of your circumstances, but it is very empowering.
Yeah. And Shanice, it made me think, really unconsciously, the premature positive thinking was my coping mechanism when
Oh,
I was a child.
great point, Lori.
It really was my coping mechanism. So I just didn't know that I had to come back around to that
Mm.
and that again, it was premature. Again, my coping mechanism was the positive thinking. I'm always very optimistic, positive thinking. But I was holding so much in with that, right? Because that was my coping mechanism. It'll be fine. It's okay. That's always what I said to myself. And so as I, got older and still had that, I was uncovering, like you said, I'm like, gosh, okay. That was premature. So it really was my coping mechanism. And it's definitely what I used. Again, had no idea, that I had to go in there deeper then with that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, it served you when you
Yeah.
needed it.
Yeah.
It helped you to survive, it helped you to cope, and now you have different methods that serve you way better as the empowered adult you are now.
Yeah, and and definitely as the adult I am now, which realizing just staying stuck in that premature positive thinking was keeping me stuck, was where I wasn't seeing the action, where I wasn't seeing no change
Yes.
because of being stuck, which I didn't know. Part of that was the premature positive thinking, which was keeping me stuck because I haven't fully emotionalized a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that we've moved beyond that and we use, positive thinking in a way that serves us in the whole, now it's a joy. It's a joy to be positive because it's no longer premature.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
taking into account the
yeah.
whole picture.
And when we're not positive, then it's like, that's real too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because now we can
like
drop the act, right?
yes.
And be like,
I
"No, I'm not feeling good today." Instead of having that premature, positive thinking.
yeah, yes. No, and it's so much better. It's so much better to be like, "No, I'm not good." And that's
Yeah, exactly, and that's okay. It's,
yes.
again, being okay with that and being, again, that's a whole 'nother thing. So, Shanice, why is it important to emotionalize? I mean, everything we just talked about.
Yes. Oh my gosh, let's get into it. So, one thing is more compassion. So, like, emotionalization puts you in a place of understanding without judgment. And as humans, we tend to judge what we don't know, but understanding without judgment leads to like a deeper inner knowing.
Yeah, yeah. That makes me think. I have compassion for like everything, but I have more compassion when I have been through an experience. And that's like the difference between sympathy versus empathy. I mean, so when something happens to somebody that I have never experienced, I definitely, have compassion and I sympathize for them, but I cannot have empathy if I've never felt it myself. And that's just showing the difference of how you can just thinking about that, how it makes you feel in the body. I can feel it so much differently when I am sympathizing for somebody versus having empathy for somebody because, oh my gosh, I have had that exact same experience. I've had a miscarriage, for an example, and someone just told me they had a miscarriage. And it put me back to the moment that I had my miscarriage. Like I could feel it in my body and like it was just so strong, and I just put my arms around them and it was just the energy was so strong. Now, if I didn't experience that, of course I'd still want to put my arms around them and hug them, but I wouldn't have felt it the same way. It literally took me back fully into my body because I've had that experience. So I could really, really empathize for this person.
Wow, yeah. I love that you said that. So basically, what you're saying is sympathy is the equivalent of thinking, and empathy is the equivalent of feeling. And so if you haven't gone through an experience, you can wonder, you can have sympathy and be like, no, That's must feel terrible, like, but you haven't gone through it yourself, so you can't really empathize, versus when you have gone through it, you can't, like, you feel it and but you feel that for them, it brings you back to that moment. And I love that, because that's a really great metaphor for anyone struggling to understand the difference between
Yeah.
intellectualizing and emotionalizing.
Yeah.
It is very similar to sympathy versus empathy. So thank you for that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So Shanice, so now let's talk a little bit about how do we emotionalize? Like, what were some of the ways that we both learned um how to emotionalize, which we've been talking about. It's that the action and the doing, but I know when we were even creating this, one thing that really came up for us that again we just didn't realize how big this step was using first party communication.
Ooh, that's such a big one. Oh my goodness, that really did change and, like, rewire my brain. Like, that was one of the most powerful things that helped me rewire my mind. Yes, let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, because when you use first part communication is, using I, speaking with I statements. Because when you use the word you in a communication, it usually means you're philosophizing, conceptualizing, or theorizing. You're just talking about it, thinking about it. You're not at, it's just still kind of kicking around some ideas
So
in
you
your
haven't,
mind.
like, internalized it yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's important to internalize and then emotionalize because change only happens when you emotionalize something until it becomes part of your consciousness.
Yeah.
So the ultimate benefit of staying in first party, communicating with first party is that it will help you stay awake to your higher consciousness.
Yes. And, honestly, this is it's the smallest little things. It's always the smallest little things that create the biggest of changes, I swear. And I remember when I first started talking in first party and saying I and me instead of you, it was a lot harder than
Yeah.
it seemed. I kept catching myself saying you, and I would have assignments and I would have to write them in first party. And, my coach would be like, "Oh, you didn't use first party." And, all little spots I had to go and change. And it was, like, really tedious and frustrating. My ego was like, is this really important? Like, trying to make, the ego makes the important unimportant and the unimportant important. And it totally did that with first party. But it really does, like, saying I and making it personal instead of just saying you and conceptualizing. It really does make such a big impact.
Yeah, I know for myself, Shanice, that same experience. Like, my ego really fought that for a while, but I realized that was the first step when I started talking about I doing this and I, or whatever I was relating to, I was talking about me.
Mhm.
My gosh, was that a whole different experience? I
Yeah.
wasn't just thinking about it. I wasn't saying, "You guys," I would always refer to that. It's like, no, I mean, even talking to you, it's like, so it's hard to talk about, it's like, other than me. You know what I mean? And it does. It's like you really embody that. And I didn't realize exactly how powerful that was. And it definitely took me a few years, really, of really, like, you start doing it little by little. It didn't happen overnight. I know
Oh,
that,
oh,
right?
no.
Because it was like it
It's just
just
so ingrained. We're so used to saying you this, you that, and never saying I, that yeah, it took years to really kind of switch that flip in
yeah.
our mind.
And it
Yeah.
really does help when you're talking to somebody. It's easier for other people to listen because they don't feel as on guard. There's so many benefits to it
Yeah.
by speaking an I mean, but this was a huge one, which was very unconscious to me, how this really, when we internalize plus emotionalize, that's what creates the change.
Mhm.
Like, wow.
Yes, the yin and the yin and the yang. It's both. It's the combination of both. Yeah, in this case, intellectualizing and emotionalizing. Yeah. And I like that you brought up that it can help people help people lower their guard. Because yeah, when I'm, like, having a conversation with someone and I'm saying I instead of you, like, I've noticed that it helps people take in the information more because
Yeah.
you already there's like a wall. It's like, "Oh, what are you saying about me? What?" But
Yeah.
if I'm saying I've noticed that it kind of opens people up a little bit more because 'cause they're not feeling like they're being attacked, and it just I feel like the information goes in and
Yeah.
stays in better than saying you.
And it helps them. Like, we talk about this a lot on this podcast, but it makes me think that it helps them speak in those terms as well.
Mhm.
Because, you know what I mean? The conversation goes differently. And then again, they don't realize, but they are also then internalizing more versus theorizing
Right.
unknowingly, just
Mhm.
because you're having this, and the conversation is just so much more beautiful. I've actually just really enjoyed first party communication more than I've ever, and my ego really struggled with that for quite a bit. Like I said, I was saying it took a bit. It didn't just happen. It was like I had to really push myself into that. And now there's a peace with that, isn't there, Shanice? There's like
Yeah.
a very, I don't know what the, it's just, it's, hey, I don't know what it, I can't pin it.
Put a word to
Very,
it.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
put a word to it. It just feels so good.
Yeah, it went from tedious and annoying because it's just like, "I don't feel like this is necessary," to now I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that I put my ego aside and I learned how to speak in first party, learned how to write in first party. Now it comes naturally. I mean, this is after years of doing so. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
now it comes naturally. And yes, I know what you're saying. Um, because it's like it's that sense of peace because it's like it's aligned. It's aligned. That's
Yeah. Well, you're aligning with your higher self.
yeah.
And the other peaceful thing is my ego is sitting back. It's
Mhm.
just out of the picture. And that is why I think it feels so calm. I don't feel just like it just feels relaxing. It
Yeah.
feels I don't yeah, it's just it's a peaceful way, and I am emotionalizing and all of these things I am talking about doing. I am talking about myself, and I'm not theorizing. I'm not referring to someone else. I'm me. I am going to jump in that water. You
Yeah.
know? I now you and I should go. I am going into that water.
Yeah.
So you're already embodying that.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly. It really is. I will say first party communication, I think, was like the catalyst of all the other change that
Yeah.
was able to come in. Cause like we're saying, intellectualizing plus emotionalizing equals change. And so when you speak in first party, it kind of opens the way for everything else that you're trying to intellectualize plus emotionalize. It makes it that much easier because
Yeah.
now you're not conceptualizing, you're internalizing. So
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier for everything else to come in. So it's such a great starting point. I cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we were, shown this, we didn't realize all these benefits.
No, we didn't realize the importance.
No,
No.
giving you guys that. We didn't like, we just started doing it, but we didn't realize that that was a big part of the first step to emotionalize.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
wow. Yes, this is huge. This is a big takeaway, like a
Yes.
big takeaway.
Truly, truly.
Hey, so Shanice, to wrap up this episode, we really did dive deep into the differences between thinking and feeling. We discovered that what keeps us stuck is intellectualizing, and learned that intellectualizing plus emotionalizing is what equals change.
Yes. Oh, I love this episode so much. It was such a great one. If you'd like to learn more about us or check out our products and services, you can click the link in the description. Today's quote is by Goalcast. Intellectualization is the process of giving emotions to the mind rather than just feeling it. And I feel like that wraps up this episode
Yeah,
perfectly.
exactly.
And that's it for this episode. If this episode spoke to you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it. Thank you guys for listening to Branching In with Shanice.
And Lori, join us for our next episode. We post on Friday. See you guys then.